Hi guys, this is Tony over here with Big Dogs Performance. Um, and this is part two of the Flowtech versus the ported stainless steel shorty headers that Big Dogs sell and modify. Back here with this red Fox body convertible, and since posting the last video, we had a couple of questions from some customers and some followers about the shorty headers that we port and sell, and also um, pretty much some popular shorty headers that we also port when customers send us, those particular headers. And they were asking what are some of the things that needs to be done when installing these particular headers, uh, whether it be the Flowtechs, our ported stainless steel, BBK, or whatever header you have shorty. And pretty much the passenger side is pretty straightforward. The passenger side is pretty straightforward. You have plenty of room to install, and usually from our experiences the passenger side doesn't give you too much hassle, okay, with the shorty headers. The driver side, on the other hand, you have several challenges depending on what type of header you're going with. Pretty much they are the same when you start getting to like the inch and 3/4 shorty Flowtechs. The tubes are big, so they have to extend the tubes out a little further, usually like about 1/4 to 1/2 inch, to accommodate the tube size in order to make the turn into the collector to be able to bolt up to the factory H-pipe setup or similar. So what that does, especially if you are running weak, worn, or high mileage stock motor mounts. Now, one of the things that the previous mechanic, I guess, didn't pay attention to, or just wasn't experienced enough to know, is that on these cars, when you're running aftermarket headers, whether it be shorties, long tubes, whatever, on the driver's side you have two major issues. The first issue, of course, is the steering shaft. Okay. The second issue is the motor mounts. Now, as soon as we got this car, we started doing some measurements after the customer told us what the previous mechanic was complaining about when he tried to install our ported stainless steel shorty headers that the customer bought. He didn't want to do the extra little modifications, or didn't know what was causing the driver's side issue, which in all honesty wasn't a major issue. It wasn't a major issue at all. He just didn't want to put them on for some odd reason. I don't know why he wanted to use the Flowtechs, which I guess he thought by the tube size being bigger they were going to flow more. But we're going to show you a direct head-to-head comparison on that. We flowed the passenger side Flowtech. It did 420 CFM, but we're going to flow the driver's side Flowtech, as well as another set of our ported stainless steel shorty headers that we're going to go ahead and install on this vehicle, like the original intention. But going back to this, the motor mount, we measured the motor mount, and as soon as I saw the motor mount, I saw it was a factory type, stock motor mount that was kind of old. And you can see, I don't know if you can see it from this angle, but the motor mount is worn. It's dropped about 1/2 inch. Now I'm going to show you a performance newer, it's been sitting, but a new polyurethane motor mount. And if you take a look at this motor mount, and then we're gonna go over here and check this polyurethane mount that we like to use. You can see this area is much taller. It's much taller. Even when you put the motor on top of it, it's not going to crush too much. Probably less than 1/8 of an inch. Well, that's enough on both sides to raise the motor up enough. So even on the Flowtech header, it'll raise the motor up enough to where that tube isn't hitting that steering shaft. Now, the previous mechanic, when he installed the Flowtech headers, he told the customer that they went on smooth with no problems. And that was a lie. They didn't go on smooth without any problems. And we're going to show you why that's a lie. First of all, they were sitting right on the steering shaft. And if you see that line right there, every time the customer turned the steering wheel, that line was cut there because the header was actually laying on the steering shaft. And eventually that would have wore a hole in the header or put extra pressure on the steering shaft. Okay? But we're going to show you what the previous mechanic did in order to get those Flowtechs that he said went on butter smooth to even go on. I'm gonna go over here. This is the Flowtech, and this is the driver's side. Okay? This is what the previous mechanic called going on butter smooth. He had to crush that pipe so bad that when we tested this particular tube was down 80 CFM. 80 CFM compared to the other ones. It was down 80 CFM. He also had to modify it here, which that wasn't bad at all. That wasn't too bad. That's typical. You know, and this pipe, you know, the flow, the CFM wasn't affected as much. But this one was down 80 CFM. That's the equivalent of you pretty much porting 3 exhaust ports and not only not porting the 4th one, but blocking it off with a 1/2-inch bolt. Okay? So with our header, it's just a slight smoothing, which really doesn't hurt the flow. And our header actually goes on without having to do that. But we did this to add extra clearance. Because our parts tend to go on cars that are making some good horsepower, and we all know when you start snatching on cars, the motor's going to move, but the body's going to twist a little bit. So we add extra clearance when we're installing these on customers, or if we, you know, ship out some headers that's going on a nice high-end application, we'll go ahead and do this modification. But this is something we're going to start doing pretty much to all the headers that we sell and modify. We're going to start making the extra clearance. Like I said, they go on without this, but we're just going to make sure that we do this. But what we wanted to do, we wanted to strap this one the driver's side on the flow bench to show you exactly what this one flows. Just want to pause it and set it up. So we have the crushed header, the crushed Flowtech 1 3/4 header strapped to the flow bench. Okay, it's zeroed out. We're gonna cut it on and see what it does. 385 CFM. 385 CFM. Now I want you guys to see that, you know, because these are the little details, and one of the reasons why 95% of out the box shorty headers don't make as much power as regular long tubes. Okay, now the long tubes, people say, well, you get the scavenging effect and the tuning. You get that on the lower RPM range, and that's also dependent on the combination, because the intake wavelength tuning has a tremendous effect on that also. When it comes to exhaust systems, as long as you have the right size flow and collector extension, you can see many back-to-back dyno comparisons where if you have an equally or similarly flowing shorty header versus, you know, an equally or similarly flowing long tube with the same collector and the same exhaust flow and collector extension length, you're going to see that the horsepower curves are going to be very, very, very similar. The difference in what most people are seeing in real world is the fact that a lot of shorty headers don't flow well out the box, but once you port them like we do and modify them and give them the flow, they're gonna make just as much, if not more, power than the long tubes. And as you see, if you were to buy this header, slap it on, and don't make the horsepower that you thought you would have made, you would have said it's the shortness of the header. No, it's not. It's not the shortness of the header. It's the flow. Think about a Coyote motor. Coyote motor can dyno 500 horsepower to the rear wheels with the factory header. That's a shorty header. So it's not the length of the tubes that affects peak horsepower as much. It's the flow of the whole header on each side. And as you see, this is 385 CFM. So let's do another thing. Let's strap on our ported stainless steel shorty header driver side and see what it does. We're gonna pause it and set it up. So we're back here with our driver side ported stainless steel shorty headers, and we're gonna see what this one does. Now remember, the Flowtech driver side that the mechanic picked out did 385. Okay, we're gonna see what this one does. Okay, let's cut the flow bench on. So you're looking at about 638, 639, 640. About 640. So that's a huge difference. And mind you, this tube size is 1 5/8 inner diameter. Okay, and these are 1 3/4. And you have 420 on the passenger side Flowtech, 385 on the driver's side. This one, stainless steel, you have 704, and you just saw the driver's side 640. And we did do the little dimple right there because the motor mounts on this Fox body is worn. Other than that, You're looking at 640 versus 385. So once again, Big Dog Sporting is bringing you the real truth. Don't just assume when you buy these parts to slap them on. A lot of guys on the forums and groups, they'll argue with you and argue with our customers and argue with us up and down. But as you see, we always come back to prove our point and give you guys the facts. I hope this video and these videos help you guys out, make better decisions and think about the parts that you're ordering and putting on your vehicle. And it doesn't hurt to get them checked out before you put them on. Send them to us and have them flow tested. Once again, Big Dog's Performance. See you guys at the track.